I need a stretch. Hello, we are live.
Stretch, yes. Dr. Renee, are you out there? Are you coming to Clubhouse today so we can stretch? Look, let me act like I'm on a podcast and live. Good morning, goddesses.
You know you're in trouble when you're telling yourself to behave. You're like, let me act right. Let me act right now.
Get it together.
Act right.
Get it together, Tracy.
Yes. Do it. You like you got company. People are watching.
Act like you got some sis, girl.
Yes.
Like
Behave. Behave yourself. Happy weekend. Happy self-love Saturday.
Self-love Saturday. Self-love. Yes.
We do self-love every week.
All day, every day. For real, it should be. But, anyways, how are you this morning, Marie? How you feeling today, goddess?
Whew. I'm wearing yellow, so I'm trying to just bring it all out. Bring the energy out. I was just like, I need something. Okay. Something just to boost the energy and not feel like where I'm at.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm in the North Pole, but I'm not. North Pole in February.
Is it that cold? Oh,
it's not. We reached the tropical range of 40, 50s,
okay,
which is insane because you're still surrounded by snow, which I'm like, stop playing around. Like, I will not fall for this foolery. Like, it is still winter.
It's still winter.
Stop it. So it's nice to have sunshine. That's the other thing. Sometimes the things you allow yourself to be happy about. Happy weekend, Joyce. Good to see you. Oh my God. So yeah, send us. I want that Belize sunshine. Send me that Jamaica, that Caribbean, Haiti, all of it. Costa Rica, all of it. All the islands. Give me all the island. Give me the motherland sunshine. Okay, all of it.
Everybody loves the sunshine. Yes, bring the sunshine. Bring it.
Send it to me. I want some of that.
Whew. Okay, so we are going to continue on with this discussion, this self-hate discussion. Just a couple more topics that I want us to talk about. Maybe we'll give it a break and come back at it so it doesn't overwhelm everyone. And today's topic is unworthy. I know that worthy is one of your words.
Oh, yes. Yes, it is.
Yes.
But let's start with your message so we can get it all centered.
No, I want to end with the message.
You want to end with the message?
That's okay. We can go here. We can go here first. Give me a second to pull the message up.
I need like that ingredient. It's like starting with water or with that little.
Give me a little something. I need a little something right up front. Hey, Val. Come in, goddess.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning. How you feeling today?
I'm feeling well rested.
Oh, good. I'm glad somebody's feeling well rested. I'm always happy for others when they get rest.
Relax, relate, release.
Woo.
Rejoice.
Do that a little later today. I hope to get to do that. All right. So if you have your Slay Bible on hand, Slay, self-love awaits you. If you've got that on hand, grab it. And we are going, I want to say that's 105-ish, somewhere in there.
In that region?
In that region, 105, 106. Let's go there.
Sound like a radio station.
No. Sha-na-na-na. All right now.
Slay with Trey, SWT 105, coming to you live. Okay.
She's been rehearsing, Marie.
I haven't. That really just came to my mind. I get the words and the rhyming. I don't even know. It just comes. It breaks my heart when I meet brilliant women who have that one thing that keeps them from crossing the threshold into their next level, be it a better job, a better relationship, a better life, or what have you. They took the hit when they should have ducked and came up with the left hook. See, desire is not their problem. The knowingness or lack thereof is. They have the desire to cross over. However, their own fear of the one thing's ability to keep them from their bliss overpowers them. Listen, I can empower you and give you all the motivation in the world. But if you don't believe you are worthy, and if you don't believe you can have it, whatever it is, then you never will. And I'm dying inside because I so desperately want it for you. I so greatly see who you really are. But my hands are tied. I can't do for you what you must do for yourself. I am in your corner. I am on your team. But I'm waiting on the outside of the ring. I'm waiting for you to hear the bell so you can come to the corner and I can tell you what's going on. I'm your coach. I'm your cheerleader. And as such, I can only do what I can do from the sidelines, boo. I can see your opposition, foresee what that plan looks like, and give you insight, but I cannot execute it for you. So let me just give you an example. Wow, there's so many, but well, before we even go into an example, let me just ask you, um, where does this feeling of unworthiness come from? Right? We all have it from time to time, I think. It just can kind of sneak in and just kind of, you know, that whole thing about being unworthy, not enough. It's such, there's such atrocities to me, and they're so untrue. They're untrue. So where did these lies come from, and why are they still wreaking havoc in so many goddesses? Those are my questions this evening.
Mm.
Those are deep questions. That's something to definitely think about. And we want to say hello to the chat. I see P. Michelle is here, and then Beautifuls. I'm
Hey
assuming that's
Pam.
Ruby. How you
Hey
doing,
Ruby.
Ruby? How you doing, girl? And Joyce. Uh, sh- uh, Ruby answered you and said train behavior. I'd like to come with the what we grew up with. Who was our influencers when we were growing up? Our our siblings, our parents, our aunts, our uncles, the community that raised us, our neighbors, the yeah, that would be, and then people that you were in school with, people that fought on the the playground with you. I'll take the hit with that. I went from a Catholic school to a public school, and I did not know how to fight physically. I met a beautiful goddess so many years ago, and she had brothers, and she taught me how to fight um, physically. But I think what how we helped each other was that we kind of encouraged one another, which was great. And I didn't realize that we were doing women empowerment in third grade. I had no clue what we were doing. Someone would talk down to our friend. We'd go beat up that person that would be bullying that person. Like, what are you doing saying that to that person? I'm going to see you at 3 o'clock. Uh, but just kind of that unworthy feeling that comes from, I feel like the base can sometimes come from where we grew up, how we grew up, or who were around, who was around us. And then when we might have, scraped out of that some of that horrible negative thoughts that we got from wherever from our childhood, and we become teenagers, we grow up, we're in school, and then we go to college, and then we go for the job, and then the job that we get sometimes says we're not worthy. I have a degree, but the job that I have doesn't reflect the worthiness that I paid for with that degree, or the training that I received. I went to legal paralegal school, or I did something. I went to nursing school. I got my doctorate. I did something to get that, and then the the market told me that I wasn't worthy. And I don't. There's a statistic that's out there that says that how the man gets paid so much more of the dollar than a woman. And when you go by race, it's even lower. And I know we're somewhere in that low. And I'm talking about being paid in a career, whatever that career is. And unfortunately, that can speak to where that unworthiness comes from. Am I worthy of $25 an hour? Am I worthy of charging 5,000 an hour, or 5,000 for a situation that I do? So this is something that I currently am slaying. It's a slay in progress with me right now, as I am in business for myself, and rising away from the hourly wage or the freelancing thought process to the CEO process of no, 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 this is what I charge because I run a business and it's global. So
There you
yeah.
go. There you go. It's global.
Like all of it, all of it. And you decide, okay? Like you decide. They don't get to tell you your worth, right? And that's the other thing. We're waiting for other people to validate and put a stamp on it and said, yes, that's what it should be, versus and it's not even all those papers you're talking about. It's just like, even it's not the papers. Like there are people who are amazing with and without the papers, and some are even more amazing without all these little documents.
Really.
um
Truth right there.
without the documents. And then we've met some where you like, and I've had those conversations with Tracy where you're like, how did you get here? How did you get here
Mm-hmm.
to be supposedly running anything, have any title in comparison to people? They work hard, they're doing everything, they know how things are actually running in the place where they're at, and yet they are undervalued, underpaid, under recognized, under promoted, and barely visible for any. The more they do, the less. And so pay equity is a joke. Particularly in this country, it is a joke. And when you break it down by race, ethnicity, gender, and all the other, it just get worse and worse and worse. And
Mhm.
so we love talking about it, but very little is done, as if it's something that's only discussed, versus like it can be fixed.
It can.
It can
It
be fixed.
can.
But we
Yeah.
know who needs to make that decision in terms of policy, and we know who it benefits. So a lot of time, particularly when you look at the work, right? So people will be like, well, you chose to be a teacher. You chose to be in the
Right.
caregiving
Stop it.
industry, right? You chose to do the work that has to do with people, versus doing the thing that has to do with money or the bottom line. And yet we keep putting these people on a pedestal, like you doing, you are teaching the next generation, you are raising the blah blah blah, and yet we refuse to match that with the dollar, in terms of knowing that's like necessary work. And without, it's not enough just simply say it. And
Right.
again, there's so many labor, physically and otherwise, and we know who's doing that. It is women globally that's doing the work, unpaid work, from
Mhm.
home to
Mhm.
the workplace, however you defined it. We do a lot of unpaid work just to have a pat on the back, just to be praised. That's not enough. Like I said, I've said this before, I cannot deposit the praise, the compliment, the accolades, all the paperwork. They do not pay bills. They do not send kids to college. They do not feed anyone at all. And so we need to like tell the people, thank you very much for all that. But it can only go so far. And
Mhm.
as the queen says, pay me in equity.
Yes.
Okay.
All
Mhm.
right. All right. All right. I love all of that. And Val, I was going to say, I think that P. Michelle and Ruby, who talked about the trained behavior, all of those things you described initially, I think that's all of that. I think it is trained behavior. Um, and past experiences where we need to release the past and learn the lesson. Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely,
Hmm.
Pam. Yes, we do. We do. So, but how do you get past that part though? All right, so let me give this example. So, as a nursing instructor, right, I always, not even just a nursing instructor, let me change that up a little bit. So, as a nurse on the floor, right, you have nursing assistants. They come in and they help you. When you're working a clinic, you have medical assistants. They come in, they help you, they do whatever they need to do. And these are some of the most brilliant people that I am like, oh my God, why are you here? Why aren't you a nurse or a doctor? Like, what happened? And a lot of times it's that fear of not enoughness. There's something that's trapped, that has them trapped there. So, what is that thing that keeps you stuck? Why do you feel like you are unworthy of, right? And it happens, and then a lot of them get stuck for years on different things. The math is too hard. I'm like, I can teach anybody math. Come with it. Don't tell me that that's your issue, and you've been holding on to that for the last 20 years, baby. Whatever it is, I'm scared of science. Okay, I didn't love science either, but I had to learn the science to do what I loved. So come again, like just and you just see it, and it's not just in nursing. I mean, you see it everywhere. So where does that feeling of unworthiness, not just where it comes from, why are we still holding on to it, and how can we release it?
You want to release it. I think it's a combination. I think part of it, again, we have to look at a combination of circumstance, work culture, and then our society as a whole. um I love when we give clear example. For me, it's truly circumstance. So after being laid off twice in a row, it was desperation. I had to take what I could. So I got laid off right after, let me see, right after giving birth. It was just like I came back from FMLA and I was just like, you got to go. We don't need any more health educators here. Bye. And then it took me a while to find something. And I just picked whatever I could find. And it was less than what I was making at my last job. And then the moment I made that decision to take whatever I can find, it just went down and down because I just take whatever I could. And once you start making decision based out of desperation, you take anything, and it's get harder to get back up again. And so a lot of time, even if you have the degree, and sometimes people embellish and they're like, oh, I have credentials they don't have. I had
Mhm.
to literally downplay my credentials to get in the door,
Yeah.
because once they see the credentials, it's like, oh, we can't afford to pay you. So for
Yeah.
me, it was a catch 22. I had too much for what I was available.
So
And then
can I
you
ask
get in,
you?
hmm?
Hmm.
Then
Hmm.
you get in some.
I just want to ask the question though: were you in a space where you felt unworthy or that you weren't enough? I don't think you were in that space. I think
No, I mean, for me,
desperation is something different.
no, it's truly a combination. I don't think in some spaces it's not one or the other. So for me, it was more where I was at. So where I was at is like, again, I'm surrounded by docs, nurses, and so forth. I was the only non-clinical person. But at the same time, I knew I was valued. And then to be gone, then I was in a space where it was just like, I have never been in that industry before. So I'm like, well, I'm starting over. Let me take what I can get. And then it became this thing of comparing where I'm like, well, I don't have this, I don't have that. Let me learn the ropes. But again, I think for me it was that comparison in terms of not realizing some skills were transferable, because I realized real quickly, like, the things I learned in healthcare were very transferable in hospitality. There wasn't that much of a difference. But in my mind, I felt like I needed one more piece of paper to prove that,
Mhm.
okay, you deserve to be here. Like, you can actually do the job, and that you can learn it. Some job you can just learn it. Like, you don't need one more thing to say, I belong here. I can do the job. The
Yeah.
other thing too is you in spaces where you're not trained. And sometimes we take on things where it's like, it's not your job to train you. The people need to train you to do the job they hire you to do. So sometimes we take that on as if I'm supposed to come already. And sometimes the job is not even the job you think you apply for. So people are getting all these benefits where you're getting less and you're doing way more than, they don't even know what they're asking people to apply for. So for me, it was more comparing to the people who were already there. They look like they knew what they were doing. I think a lot of people perform. They do this performative thing where
Oh,
they look like they know.
there's some performers. Let's
They
talk
don't
about
Yeah,
the
know
real
what they're
ones.
doing.
Let's
and
talk
and
about
I
You
and
take
I,
that at face value. They don't know what they're doing. And I think for me was that comparison and thinking they actually do know and they don't know. And I probably shouldn't have believed that they actually know what's going on and they don't. And so for me, I should have compared and I felt like, oh, I should have known better. I should have done this. And all that was in my head in terms of like thinking I should have. And I'm like, how should have I have known this stuff? Right. And so I think it's just that combination of like feeling like you should have and where should it been. A lot of things we don't learn it in school. So again, we do a lot of comparison. The other thing for me that came into play was the people in that space. Even though I felt like I didn't have it, a lot of people thought I was coming for their jobs, and I'm sitting there like,
well, that's a lot.
I
Yeah,
don't think I have what it takes to even do what I came here to do. But you think I'm coming for your position, which I'm like, I have zero. Let me tell you,
that's
zero,
always other people's insecurities. Always, always. That's
none.
their own insecurities.
And I'm talking position where I went in as a temp. And I'm just like, literally, I'm still navigating, trying to figure out what do you want me to do here? And you think I have the bandwidth to do what I got to do here to keep the little job for the few weeks and then come for you when I don't even know what exactly you're doing? You just look busy to me. That's all. And I'm like, I'm not interested in looking busy. I don't mind the
the
paycheck, but I had
I
made a conscious decision not to go for a certain position just
Gotcha.
to say I'm a manager, just to say I'm a supervisor. Like, I'm
Right,
not
right,
interested.
right.
But that projection is weird. And that also makes you feel like I don't want to be here with people's projecting their insecurities onto you when you barely feel like you belong.
Yeah. All right. All right. Val, you were gonna say something.
yeah, I was gonna say a whole bunch of stuff, but I she was going so fast. I was like, oh my lord. I kind of saw my whole careers kind of flash through my flash through my rear view mirror. I went through a horrible sense of unworthiness twice. And I went and I got the master's in 3D animation, and every time I tried to enter into that space, I didn't see people that looked like me. And then when I went on the freelancing side of things, people made the assumption freelancing meant for free. And I was like, no, that's not what I sit here. I love what I do when I was doing animation, and it required a lot of, coding and stuff. So that's what I was doing. And then I said, you know what, this is stressing me out. Let me go back to what I know. Let's go back to law firms. Let's go back to doing legal secretarial work. And I, like Marie, I faced people that had those insecurities of, oh gosh, you're coming for my job. And it's like, no, I'm trying to pay off student loans. Can I? I'm trying to pay off student loans. I mean, like I couldn't say that over and over again because that was kind of the thing. And there was an agency I went to, and I took the master degree off, and that the person yelled at me. He was like, "You spent time." He was trying to figure out why was it like a 2 year gap or almost a 2 year gap, and because I went to NYU and I was there full time, so he's like there was like a 2 year gap. He's like, "Why did you take it off of your resume? It needs to be on your resume." And he kind of used like it needs to be there. I was like, but it was completely unrelated to the spaces that I'm going to. I'm going to law firms. Don't nobody want to hear about my 3D animation situation. They don't want to hear about that. They don't want to hear about my broadcast thing. And I felt like I was making myself less to be hired in these spaces so that I could pay off my student loans. And I say it like that because I felt like nobody was hearing me on that point. And if I was to do it all again, if I was to go back and do it all again, the whatever amount of money that I would have spent with the grad school, I would have made the movie. I'm dead serious about that. And the very, very last job that I had with a non for profit, that was a worthiness fight almost daily. And I literally had to, sometimes I would step into it and be like, yes, I'm worthy. And I would take control. And then people would be like, no, are you trying to come for my job? And or you're overstepping. You're this position. Don't you're operating as if you're a vice president, but I run this. I'm a project manager, but I'm not being paid to be a project manager. So it's like I had to just constantly fight against, as you say, Tracy, the people's insecurities. And it's like, I don't have bandwidth to deal with that. And then finally, when I came out of there and was doing freelancing at the dollar amount that it should be, I was like, okay, this is it. This is where we're going to go. This is the direction I'm going to have to go into. And I want to be working and doing things that fulfill me, because Lord, I don't know how long I have left on this earth. I'm sorry. I want to make every day to the best of my ability the best. I want to work in the point where it doesn't feel like work. It's brilliantly beautiful. I love that. Brilliantly, you know, I'm running out of words, but yeah, so I'm just grateful for that. Grateful for that, being able to work in a space where I love doing what I do.
Tracy can help you. She has words. She got words. She got plenty of words.
Like
Give
she
her some
got
words.
It's like she got milk. She got words.
She got words. She got words. She got words. No, but I get it. I get it. All that, believe me, it's almost like a.
Yes, but you know, so I think I'm just trying to steer us a little bit away from just the idea of work and talk about unworthy on other levels, because sometimes just being, you know, being around peers, um, being around other people in your family. I think somebody brought up a family issue. There's this feeling of just not being worthy of, you know, doing all of those things. Ruby, definitely some men in the family targeting the brothers will make you feel that way
Just
just
like you.
by them teasing and speaking recklessly over
Mm.
you. Yeah, by not having those people in your life that speak love and life to you, right? That
Mhm.
support you in what you're doing,
I
that
think,
believe
yeah.
anything you say. Like those are things that eat at us, right? And so sometimes, you know, we're pushing past some different things, and it's not just at work. Oh yeah, Pam. I'm the only woman of color in my space at work. It's
It's so.
exhausting, and the undertones of everything. Oh yeah, yeah. hmm That's a difficult space to be in.
I think the reason why we keep talking about work is because that's where we spend the vast majority of our time. I mean, think about it. We're spending 8 to 9 hours of our time at work. And unfortunately, sometimes how you're perceived, or how you might be beaten up, unfortunately, we take that home to
I'm okay with
our
that.
some of it, we take it home to our children, we take it home to our spouse, we take it home to our partner. It's just we're dealing with that, and it's always important that who's ever in our personal space, where we go home, that you are redefined as worthy, that
Yes.
that
And what I'm
child, right, that child, that partner, that husband, that spouse, someone is telling you, no, 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 I don't care if that girl talked about you at work, you are
right.
my queen, or you are my mom, I love you. And just all those words of affirmation just needs to happen, because I feel like I go out to the world and I get beat up. When I come back, I want a home of comfort.
Absolutely. And that's how
Mhm.
it should be. But what I'm saying is there are women who go home and don't have that. They don't have that at home. They get the beat down at home, they get the beat down at work. So at what point do they come up and out of this unworthiness? And why is it that there's still something in the psyche that says, I am not worthy? I am not worthy. But where did that come from? You know, when did you first have that feeling of not being worthy, or of not being enough? You're not smart enough, you're not good enough, like those things. That's all I'm saying. I'm definitely, I'm not taking away anything from work, because a lot of it comes from over there too.
Yeah, I think we're gonna have to go back because it's all related. And I think I've explored. I may have to go back to my own work because I not work, but my own writing, I would say, and that's where the writing helps a lot because I think I did connect it when I was doing sort of like my writing for school, where I connected all either three or four. I think I started with home, school, my community, and then work. But also what's going on now. So with home, again, with most of us, if you were lucky enough to be, with parents at home, extended family, where there are things that are being said to you, whether those in that space, and how you are seen, again, particularly as women. Like for me, there are certain things I purposely like leave that behind. So when you see how you grew up, like for me, it was always like my clothes were made, so there was always comment about being skinny, being tall, being whatever, and you're just like, this is ridiculous. And then it changes and you're just like, I don't even know. And the whole time you see yourself as normal, whatever that is. But we always to something, and for me it's always to something. So I go through this process of being to something for somebody, and then it shifts where you're trying to not be to that, and that person think you're not that. Then you're like, you're too quiet, you too this, and then you try to do the other thing, and then you're not that one. And it goes through that comparison thing where you like, you literally morphing into multiple things, where I'm like, that is crazy. Like you're gonna have multiple personalities trying to please other people who see you differently, each one. And I think it's coming back to me now. And I describe, and that's why I think one of my pieces, one of the poems that I've written, I describe how my mother saw me, how my grandmother saw me, how my aunt saw me, and possibly, even though I didn't know my father, how could he possibly perceive and saw me? And so through all these people's eyes, how I was trying to be. And in that process, who I've become in spite of how they saw me. And I think whether we know these people or not, we're trying to please and becoming because of how they see us. And sometimes, whether we know it or not, we're still trying to do that as an adult. And they seep into multiple spaces. But I think sometimes we have to find a way to express it, because we may not know. Like I see what you're saying, where sometimes it's like some are more clear than others. Like the spaces, the last thing I would say that shocked me was, I truly believe that it was the harshest criticism, and the thing that was going to hurt me the most in terms of where do I get that unworthiness was going to come from men. And the thing that really gutted me, that it came from women, and it's still coming from women. And it took me a while, because I didn't even want to say that, acknowledge it publicly, because I was just like, I thought it was going to be this beautiful sisterhood. That's what was going to get like encouraged and empowered. And because of the work I've done since I was a little girl, like empowering other girls and women, my age back then and now, to find myself in spaces where these are the people taking me down, not wanting to see me succeed, actually seeing me less than, and making sure that I don't get far, and making sure that I'm not seen and actually get anywhere. I I I didn't even know how to take it. But at
Yeah.
the same time still feel like, you know what? By then, to know, how do I see me and not allow,
How do I think that's key right there,
right?
Maria? How
Because
do
I'm
I
like,
see me?
I cannot allow that to define me and take me down, because I
Mhm.
have done the work to redefine how I see myself. So if I allow
Right.
how they perceive me, particularly in any spaces, and again, it is their own insecurity. And sometimes I change insecurity to other words. I'm
Right.
not going to take that. I will not take on their insecurities, because it is what they've been through from
Mhm.
childhood, from girlhood up until now, that they're projecting on me. And I'm like,
And
it
they're
is not
taught.
my burden.
Hmm.
Yep.
And
I
they're
will not take
taught
that
that
on.
everything is competition, that every woman is coming. That's systematic. That's systemic. We that's something else that we need to talk about. And you want to talk about why I said, and we had this a few episodes back, that we need to put all the shit on the table and start talking about it. This is that shit, y'all. I'm sorry. I'm
And
sorry.
I
This
said
is
in the
that shit we
chat
need to
that
start
that
bringing
it
to
come
the table.
that
There's a
I
whole
put
conversation in the chat too. I'm sorry, Val, but there's a whole conversation in the chat. I'm like, ooh, that's good. Ooh, that's good. Ooh, that's good. So yeah, go with it. Go with it.
yeah, so I said that a lot of the unworthiness, especially with women of color, can also come from slavery. And I hate to throw it back to the ancestors, but
No, it's
that's
truth. It's
that's
truth.
true.
The ancestors appreciate truth. So yeah, we it's good. It's good and all true. And then Pam said, I have to fight to feel worthy in a lot of spaces. Exactly, which is why this whole me thing, this whole me moments, this whole me movement that I'm pushing about talking about self love and why it's important. Everything we do in life has impact, right? And so, if we can just go back and rebuild our foundations on the truth of self love, then we can move forward in a more positive light. That's how, Pam. That's how. I just she said, right. How we do that? How we do that? This is my way of doing it. This is my way of doing it. I just believe it all goes back to self-love, and we have to redo some things. We have to relearn some things. And there's a
Mhm.
method to the madness, absolutely.
That's
Absolutely.
right.
But
A method to the momentum.
it is added. But again, this cannot be just talk. And
It
sometimes we
can
say
be.
it, sometimes we're like, oh, I'm gonna, but it has, you have to make that step. You
And
gotta make
it
that
can't just,
move, right?
yes, yes. It can't just be, oh, I bought the book. I bought it. I bought the book. There's a whole methodology in there. It's a whole thing. It's
There's
a
more.
way to get you from where you are to where you want to be.
And journal about it. Journal about what you're feeling. I know
Journaling is part of
journaling
it.
definitely helped me.
Mhm.
But we
Yes.
have to do that collectively, by the way. So for me, it's about, we are here linking arm. It is a thing you have to do. Like, for example, many of us, we went to school, we all talking about the work and the job that we don't even want to do, and we went and did it.
Hmm.
But this work that's about self, many of us, and I'm going to say it, we fuse to invest in it. We
Ooh.
refuse to invest in it. We say it, but we don't do it. We don't even want to put a dollar in the jar for our own well-being, for our own way of, like, the sanity that we claim we want. We don't even want to invest in that.
Ooh.
Preach.
We don't want to do it. So let's
Right.
stop pretending that we do want to work on it, and the other people are not going to do it. That person you say is making you feel unworthy, you have to claim
You have
it.
to do it.
You
Own
have
it
to
to
do the work.
dethrone it.
You
Again,
have to
own
do
it
it.
to dethrone it.
You have
Because
to
it
do it.
really is all bullshit. Those are lies. Your being here makes you worthy. Your being here, taking breaths on a regular basis, your heart still beating, just because you're here, that is what makes you worthy. It does.
And you were created with a purpose.
Absolutely.
I always go back to I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. I love that scripture. I always go back to that when I'm feeling unworthy, and I'm like, I God called me and made me. He knitted me in my mother's womb. Like, you know how it takes, how much care it takes to knit something together.
Hmm.
And I'm thinking, I was created, I was thought about well before I thought about me. And anyone that is walking and living and breathing, you have a purpose. It is your goal, it should be your job to find out your purpose. And I
Yeah.
think that definitely will
It'll
knock
come.
away any
Hmm.
unworthiness you might feel.
Yeah. Well, I think it's part of the process too.
Yeah, it
I
is.
think as you walk towards loving yourself, releasing the ideas of the outside world, and just moving, by your own spirit, your own guidance. Like, there's an internal guidance system that we need to tap into even more. And that, I believe, is going to be that thing that's going to push us to, okay, I'm tapping into self love. I know that this is something that I need to do. That's part of it. Self love. It's all, it too is interwoven, tightly interwoven. That whole thing about self love, about spirit, about our ancestors, about our God, like all of these things are so tightly woven, but you can't focus like on this one little area. You've got to learn to expand. And at this point, as we are talking about working through unworthiness and some of these issues of self-hate, I just, my whole belief system is that it has to go back to building your self-love muscles, right? We need
The
muscles.
muscle.
Remember that?
But ultimately, creating the life that you want,
Creating it.
and who you becoming. It's a muscle, but it's a habit worth investing in. And you cannot do it by yourself, because
Yeah.
that self-hate that we talked about, that took work from those spaces, and that was systematically done, which means you have to systematically deprogram, unlearn
Mm-hmm.
what you learned. And you have to put the same effort, if not more, to deprogram yourself, to love yourself, to learn what other tools do I need to make sure that every day that I'm loving myself, that I'm pouring into myself, that I'm fueling myself inside and out,
Yes.
right? Inside and out. And for you to know you're worth doing that every single day, that someone can be there with you along the way, that you can invest in that, right? Because if we can invest, let's say, in a coffee, and going to a spa, and going on a vacation, right? I don't want to escape from my life. I don't want to escape. I want to be able to say I'm going somewhere to enjoy it, to meet with other people that makes me feel good. But I want to be able to say, you know what? I enjoy where I'm at, and I feel like my life is full, but not running. And then I come back to it, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm back to the same old thing,
Right.
right? It can't be. And for us to be able to say, like, and stop doing the same old thing. If what you've been doing hasn't worked, I don't want to be next year to be where I was last year. We can't keep doing the same thing. To me, that's
Exactly.
insanity that keeps on giving. We got to put an end to it. And I think here is the answer. So if you choose not to take it and be like, I'm going to keep doing the same old stuff, that's
That's
on you. But claim that worthiness, because you deserve it and you can have it. You just got to grab it and be
Mhm.
willing to say, it's mine.
And your worthiness will
Yes.
guide you into the next steps of what you need to
The
do.
next chapter is all you. You can write it all. You can claim it, create it, and we can all do it together as a sisterhood. As a
Absolutely.
sister.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And those are the words from your Slay Squad this morning.
Woo!
Thank you all for joining us today. Of course, we could continue this conversation. We've already gone over time, but that's all right. I felt like the conversation was definitely warranted us taking a little extra time today. So we hope y'all appreciate us and just forgive us, Clubhouse, because we on our way. So y'all come on over to the club on the sleigh ground. We are now on Clubhouse. I think Marie's. Did you start the room? I'm not sure, but okay. So we are heading over there. The
Come on
link is
over.
in the chat. Come on over. Let's continue a little bit of this conversation, as well as just talk about what we're grateful for today, our intentions, our affirmations. Come on over so we can continue to love. All right. Thank you so much again for joining us this morning. And we'll see
Yay.
you here bright and early Tuesday. Much love to you all.